I have journaled at least all of my adult life. You know, you have the book and you write. I was date mine. And about 7 years ago now, I just got to a place where I couldn't get anything down on the page. I'd write a few things and then I would erase it, and I just felt so frustrated. And I remember this was 7 years ago because it coincided with the birth of our first grandchild, for whose birth I was there. I also had picked up a book at the Retreat Center for Los Angeles in Echo Park. Can we get two more? Let's see. Oh, there's one down here.
Is it? Okay. Is there a chair there?
There is a chair here.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You're so popular, Susan.
I'm Susan.
Do you need one more?
You do. Well, let's not resort to the little table unless we really need it yet. Although, when we get started journaling, maybe a couple of you might want to, we'll see.
Yeah, I don't mind writing on my lap.
Okay, all right. I'm glad you all have
Well, your
flexible.
extras of these.
Oh, yes, there are.
You want me to try and get you to the table?
I think we're
Cozy.
cozy, but
We're all friendly.
and there is another one handy, so I think we're going to be okay. So, I gave him one. So I'm actually starting, like I said, bullet point 3 there. Just a tiny history. I found a book called Praying in Color. Praying in Color. And that was meaningful to me because when I look at the world, letters, numbers, everything, they're in color. There's some fancy name for that condition, but I pray in color, even though my spiritual directors say, well, the rest of us don't. But I pray in color. And so I no longer was able to really get down what I really wanted to say. And praying with color introduced me to a format whereby you put down your concerns, the people you were praying for, whoever it was. And this is kind of like, how many of you have ever doodled? You've gone to a class and you're listening and you're tired and you doodle to keep yourself awake.
All the time.
That's what this kind of reminded me of, because I realized I was an inveterate doodler my entire life, and I've always incorporated my prayers and the people I'm thinking about into that format. So, color was really important to me. It always has been, even before the whole adult coloring thing started. So I went from that to, I'm going to pass some of these down, you can see. So here was the birth of our granddaughter. What's beautiful about this is I now have 15 of these from 7 years. I can look at my whole history over those last 7 years. I've got all these. Oh.
Good morning.
So that's where, you can pass that one around. That's where that started. But then I ended up with being off work because of health reasons for about 6 months. And I got to a point where that format just wasn't helping me at all. And one night in the middle of the night, so I went from, these were my last drawings, which I was sitting on the bed. This was a night where I was sure I was at a thin space because I was in severe pain with head pain. And I couldn't go to sleep, but the middle of the night, I got up and I deconstructed all my birthday cards. And this became what my husband calls scrapbooking, journaling. But this, as I put someplace, is you are looking at, I look for the minutia all over my house. I don't buy anything. We all get cards, right? So you look at the flowers. You look at what, if you ever wanted to do it this way. You look at the little bits and pieces. And the construction of your page, this isn't, I wouldn't call this artwork. So on number 3, it says, this is visual and sacred journaling is the process of getting in touch with your prayer life and your relationship with the divine, with the Holy Spirit. So for me, I am praying unceasingly as I make these pages. Sometimes I just fill it with crayons first because I just need the act of coloring. Sometimes, and I get started, originally I didn't want to cover anything over, but I've now realized sometimes I cover the entire page over after I make it. The prayers are still there. God knew they were there, I knew they were there. And so, I'll pass that one around. So let me look at my paper. Let me really stress again, a lot of people come to my class and they think, oh my gosh, I'm not an artist. It has nothing to do with this. This is just being open to the Holy Spirit. So I have, up at the top, I have a morning prayer. I was given a number of Celtic prayer books when I was ordained last summer. And so I'm giving you one of the morning, one of the morning prayers. And why don't we all read that together? So read with me where it says morning. Oh, hang on. Do you see the word shatter? That's a typo. It should be scatter. Scatter the shadows of fear. We're not going to shatter them.
Very good.
Just a little. Well, shatter works. Sometimes you need to do that. Absolutely. So, let's read together. Encircle my soul in morning stillness. Shatter the shadows of fear. Be at my side in midday bustle. Weave through the knock door of time. Talk to my heart in tea time chatter. Speak through the discords of life. Lighten the load of incoming darkness. Glow like a star in the night. And recently I realized, so bullet point 1, this to me is really multi-sensory. And so I put down hearing. You can hear yourself coloring and writing and heart beating. I have, how many of you have ever been to a Diocese service where you chant? I've actually taken the first stanza there, and I use that repetitively as I begin every morning to address my page, whatever's going on. And this is what I do. I sing, encircle my soul in morning stillness, scatter the shadows of fear. You can do the whole thing in that in that chant. So let me sing it one more time, and then if you want to jump in and sing that with me. So what we're doing is we're trying to get centered here. Ultimately, we're going to do some journaling. Okay, so you want to sing that with me?
Okay.
Let me sing it one more time, and then you jump in. And if you want to sing it today, you do it from the heart. If you want to sing in a different key, whatever, you can do that. Encircle my soul in morning stillness, scatter the shadows of fear. Encircle my soul in morning stillness, scatter the shadows of fear. Encircle my soul in the morning stillness,
scatter my shadows of fear. Encircle my soul in morning stillness, scatter my shadows of fear.
And actually, one morning I thought, okay, I need a little bit extra here. Encircle my soul in morning stillness, scatter the shadows of fear. You're getting yourself, you're choosing to be ready and focusing yourself to listen to what God is telling you in order to represented in your journal. So again, this isn't artwork. This is you beginning to have a changed it's not the same relationship, but it's a changed way of representing what you feel or what that conversation with God. And so that's why I'm offering this to you, because it's, and it can be multi-sensory. I looked down at taste. I always have tea going, mints, whatever you have. I try to make it as full an experience as possible. I'm a third grade teacher, and so we did multi-sensory plus kinetic. How many of you have done centering prayer? I am really bad at that. I discovered I needed to be active. It's easier for me if I'm writing, coloring, cutting out something, gluing it on, instead of just sitting there, having to constantly refocus myself back to that, what I'm doing. And this has given me the opportunity to do that. Now, visual journaling is a huge, there's just a huge group of people in the world that do it. So a lot of people have different reasons for doing it. I would say most people are doing it because they want to put down their thoughts and their concerns. It isn't necessarily just a religious thing. A friend of mine that also does visual journaling loaned me her couple of her journals, and we realized, she and I agreed that there was something in common: texture, being able to feel the prayers, the texture. Because if you've got something there with texture, when you go back and look at it, it's going to evoke, oh yeah, I remember that happened to me at that time. I've used feathers, I've used coins, I've used flat rocks, buttons. Again, the minutiae in my life. So let me pass these, let me show you what I mean by texture. She actually takes her journals and she prepares them with gesso. And then she does a lot of painting on it, and she likes, this bothers me, I don't like the curled up pages, but she loves it. Let's see if we can get one more person. Could we get maybe back here?
Right here.
Is there a chair?
You got it.
Mm-hmm. Let me get her
That's a short chair.
Might
a
not
short
work.
chair. I
Yeah.
should sit on that one. So this is a lady at our church. She has been doing this forever, and she really is an artist. There are magazines and books published about visual journaling, and a lot of them look very much like this, taking surprising, startling things and incorporating them into the journal page. And hers are like mine. They last over a number of days. Also, we both do intercessory prayer. So my journals are steeped with names and prayers that I've said for people for years and years and years that I continue to pray for. So hers,
What do you mean last several days?
when I first started, I had a small journal, and I would make a page every day. That got, as a teacher, that got really a lot of pressure. And so, I'll show you mine is now big. I'll show it to you.
Okay, you just go back to it over time.
I do, and actually I go back to other pages because they don't always get finished.
Okay.
So let me pass those around. You can see just some different examples of what people do. She writes like teeny tiny. We can start from the beginning. Here's also another example of one of mine, just to show you how diverse the page can end up.
I missed what the conversation was. You said that you stopped doing it every day, and what was that part of your conversation?
Well, I used to have small journals, and it was pretty easy for me to finish a page a day. I felt really compelled to do that. And actually, my friend and I had a conversation. She said, you know, you don't have to finish it in one day. It just, yeah. And so, the nice thing about this is, it's open. It evolves over time. Like I said, when I had a crisis with ear infections, my whole way of doing this changed. So it's really being open to what the conversation that you are having with the divine will depend on how this happens. Now, I don't expect any of you necessarily want to do this kind, but I offer these. My mantra is beauty vanquishes pain. And so my journals are really colorful, lots of birds, things that really speak to me. I've gotten tons of cards around the ordination, and I've taken parts of them and put them in my journals, so they become they remain with me. So this is my journal now. And I was talking to somebody last night. This feels kind of like, this is kind of intimidating because it's big. But it invites you. I always sit with the new blank page for a long time. I'm sitting there praying, singing, I'm sipping my tea, just trying to really decide what it is. I know I'm going to put down prayers, but I don't come with materials in hand, say, oh, I'm going to put this, and this. It evolves throughout the entire time that I'm working on this page. So some pages have a lot of writing. I have a calendar that has circles, and I've been using them to kind of anchor. But others of them, I love animals. So, you know, I just find different things. I got a card with this guy trying to sail off his roof in this little homemade airplane, and it said, life is either a daring adventure or nothing. You know, it's just things that speak to me at the time. I've been dealing with the kind of difficult after effects of breast cancer treatment, and so I've really been struggling, and I was able to work out a lot of that struggle here with the beauty and the color as I went through here. I can look back and see my mother died 2 years ago, and she had a subscription to Birds and Blooms. So I have lots of birds in my journal since then. So you see, I still do a lot of writing. But the construction of the page starts before the writing, but all of these things here didn't come right at the beginning. It's a way for you to, like I said, for it to evolve and to become, it doesn't necessarily become what you think it will at the beginning of the week, or sometimes it takes me 2 weeks, but each day you may find something different that you want to add to it. So again, it's an evolution, much more than if you're just writing in, if you're writing in this kind of a journal, it's easy to go back and read it, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't know, for me it became really cut and dried. It wasn't meaningful to me anymore to just write my thoughts down here. I just needed something more. And that's what this has become. I have taught this now at several nursing homes. I've taught this with people in hospice because they again reach kind of a crisis place in their life and they need some other way of assessing a deeper relationship with God. They just feel stuck. And one of them, I worked with her just 3 days before she died, and she just felt like it just eased her path into death. She was able to get down in her journal her thoughts and her ideas, and it changed her ideas about death. She wasn't as afraid because she'd gotten the images down that she was afraid of, and she could pray for them, and it really eased her into her death. And she and her husband talked about a lot of what she had written, and she was an artist, so her journal was really beautiful. I've also used this with my third graders. Every morning they had a journal, and every morning, and you're going to do this in just a minute, I had them construct an icon. Put down your concerns today. We did this first thing in the morning. We planted it so that they didn't just continue to take those concerns through the day with them. And so they would make an icon. So not like the Russian icons, more like the icon. Icon just means an image that represents words. And kids really get the need to have an image because they can't find the words anyway. And so they're really good at constructing an image that represents whatever it is they're feeling, the anger, the people they're upset about, whatever it is, Johnny kicked me on the playground. They make little pictures and they color them and then they leave it on the edge of their desk. And I would always invite them at the end of the day, do you want to modify those? Has anything happened that have you grown through that, or have you been reconciled with Johnny, or whatever it was? And it just made my whole classroom a lot calmer when they had the opportunity to put down their feelings that they really, most of them struggled with writing, but they loved to draw. Well, first of all, we didn't teach art anymore. So this was a way of getting art into the classroom legitimately, that kids could enjoy, and so we did, like I said, we did that every morning. And they didn't have to show anybody. This could be just for them. Sometimes they showed the people around them. Sometimes they explained what their image was. But it was always different. So you've seen, I've had different, can I hold that one up for just a minute? So this first one, when I started, you notice it had lines. I felt really constrained. All of a sudden, after about 2 journals, I realized those lines were really constraining to me. I ended up making lots of squares and triangles, which I didn't necessarily mean to have those, but those lines were there. And so eventually, and pretty much all the visual journalists I've talked to agree that lines are constraining to them. Because that's the regular journaling. So, one of the first things before you start is to decide really what is the purpose. What do you want your journal? Why are you doing this? And that's, again, the beginning of that conversation. Is there some need in your life right now that you want to do something different? And you can journal the regular way and concurrently. But again, you're going to I end up doing a lot of writing in my journals. Okay? So, any questions at this point?
Do you feel closer to God when you journal?
I absolutely do. I make it a discipline to do this at least once in the morning, and then I get back. Actually, I was giving the Book of Hours And so I've been trying to do the book of hours, and so I usually have the book of hours on top of my journal, and words and phrases that really jump out to me sometimes are part of the anchor for that page. So, yeah, I do this. It does allow me, I know that when I'm rushing around doing the laundry and all of the other things, and I do pray all the time, but I feel like when I purposely take time to sit in my chair and do this, you know, I'm giving God my best attention. But again, I'm still active, but it's a like I said, a decision to sit down right now and do this. And I spend a lot of time at this. The current journal I have, I mean, it just, well, all of these, this represents hours and hours and hours of time that, and I loved every single page. I mean, there's just so much of me in there. It's just amazing to look back at it and see how my relationship with God has changed. Obviously, I went through the discernment process for the diocese, and all of that was, all of my joys, my concerns, my everything was in there, and prayers for all the people, the deacons, all the people in, you know, is all in those books. And I can look back and see that it's easier to look back. The pictures, like I said, evoke so many memories that it's easier to look back and really see what has happened to me over a period of time. So,
Got one question.
okay,
So, when I've journaled in the past, I'll tell you, sometimes I worry about who's going to read it. Because, I mean, part of it is, you know, really raw, you know, how you're really feeling. So, so what do you just put, like a warning on it, or what?
oh, that was in one of the other ones, yeah. You know, my journal is for me. Obviously, I've shared it, but I don't ever worry about what other people are going to say, because again, this was my time with God, and He, you know, if He didn't say, okay, erase that, you know, I don't think anybody else has the right to say, you know, because it's your time, it's your sharing, and I've shared them all with my husband. You know, it's just your way of working out what's going on day to day, hour to hour.
For me, I feel it's a good way to vent without involving anybody else.
It is.
You know.
You can go back and rip that page out.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know,
Exactly.
once you're over that issue, at least
Or-
it gets you through the moment.
Or
Or write as tiny as that
Burn
person.
it.
I was thinking that too.
I don't think this is writing.
it is actually writing, believe it or not.
Oh, wow.
I call it writing.
Is this your book?
No.
Under
Who
a
writes that?
magnifying glass.
Another clergy wife from a Lutheran church in Palm Springs. She's, yeah. I've had pages where I have put down such sorrow and anger and whatever, and I've started again. I've just put some new paper over it and just started again. It's still there. You've dealt with it, but to me, ripping it out, throwing it away, you know, you still have to honor the fact that you get mad, you get frustrated, all of those feelings, but it's okay to put something over it. That took me a long time to realize that I could put something over it. And it's still there, but I've just chosen to do something more positive and playful. I always find my really angry papers are full of blacks and browns. And those are really depressing to me. You can see I'm the pinks and the blues and the greens.
You could also go back though, and if you resolve the issue or you change your mind or whatever, and put down what the resolution is or how you feel now. Or
Absolutely.
whatever. If you don't want to get rid of it, you want to remember you had that problem, then you want to remember how you solved it too.
Absolutely, and you could add across something that signifies, I've made it, something has changed here. You could find a picture that really expresses what it is, you know, it helps you to remember that that has changed and you value